So when I made the decision to step away from hockey, I had to break everything down. I was recovering from double hip surgery. I was in bed for 6 months straight. It has to be hard conversations with yourself. You have to find individuals in your life that aren't necessarily just a yes person. When do you think like there's a threshold that needs to be broken where you're like, okay, I've done it, I took responsibility, but like that situation or that circumstance, that person is just no longer a fit for me.
And I want to hear from a young hustler like yourself, man. How do you avoid burnout?
Right now, what gets me going is
We're here with Brock Baier, and I'm really excited for what we're gonna get into today. We have it seems like so much in common based on what we've been sharing online in the personal development space, and just our growth mindset and desire to improve and help people along the way. So I'm excited for our conversation, man. I want to hear all about your journey, how you got into the space, and what's upcoming next for you, in terms of projects and things you're working on. So as far as like just getting us going here, why don't you talk a little bit about your journey into personal development? I always love hearing about how people got started with this and why they started to see the potential for a bigger version of themselves. And also maybe like if there's something that triggered that in them. A lot of people have these like heartbreaks or like huge life events, negative events that put them on that path. So curious if there's anything on your end that got you going on it.
I wouldn't necessarily say it was a negative event. I wouldn't even say it was a breakup or anything like that. I grew up in the sports world, and I don't know. Are you're familiar? What's your background like?
Yeah, I mean, I play soccer. I played soccer
Okay,
my whole life, so very
okay,
familiar with the sporting world too.
exactly. So yeah, exactly. So it's nice to run our conversation based off that. So what goes on in the sports world is you dedicate a very large period of your life to a particular sport. And what that is that it's not necessarily a void, but it's you hit a certain threshold where you're at a certain age and you're saying, okay, I'm gonna continue to pursue that, but that light at the end of the tunnel where when I was like 8 to 10, thinking I'm gonna make it for me, it was the NHL. For you, it could have been like a Premier League, if I have that correct.
Yep.
Um, as you get older, if you don't live up to, standards or expectations, results, that light gets narrower and narrower and narrower. And I
Hmm.
got to the point of my life where I was 22, 21. I went to university to play hockey, and I felt this weight on my shoulders of where I was trajected to go, and where I was heading was the unknown. And I felt at the time, and I guess that was the deciding factor where I could have continued going down that normacy that I've been living for, from age 4 till 21, 22, which was just sports, 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 or I can go off grid, go against the grain, and completely reimagine my life and take the grip on it. It was a very, very hard decision. It was a decision that I don't have any regret towards, though, and I think that's a big thing. Um, so when I made the decision to step away from hockey, I had to break everything down. I like to consider a small analogy, and I don't know if you're familiar with a Marvel movie.
Not
Marvel.
not not many. I mean, I know Marvel, yeah, but I'm not a
Yeah.
huge movie buff
One
by any
of my,
means.
one of my favorite movies is Iron Man, and I love when he can flip a switch or his hands clap whatever, and his armor gets put on him. And I felt like I'm not saying I felt like Iron Man, but I felt like I had to go completely against the grain to bring in more armor for myself, and that was a recreation of myself. So I stopped playing hockey, and I needed to make an identity switch because if I continued to stop playing hockey, but I still continued the same habits, the same routine, the same mindset, that would just lead me down a life of truly, I think it would lead me down a life of depression,
Hmm.
because I know I wasn't living up to what I was capable of. So I made a decision to step away from hockey, and that's when it kind of started to come with me. I had a lot more time on my hands. a lot more time to think, a lot more time to get into the gym, a lot more time to kind of sit in motion. And I know that that's a term I like to use. But there's a difference between motion and there's a difference between action. And I felt that for the first 6 months of me stepping away from hockey, I had to be in that motion state where I had to kind of figure out, like, okay, what do I like? What do I don't like? And then I moved out to Vancouver out of just a split decision. And I got a restaurant job. And I just kind of fully immersed myself in things that interest me at that time. And I think that is what led me down the route of personal development.
Mm.
Doing things that just interest you or you've had to put on the back burner for, your life while you pursue a different career, different job, different dream. When you start going into the fields that interest you the most, that's when your true character kind of comes into fruition. So for me, it was building. It was not only building physically, but it was building mentally and within the entrepreneurial side of things. So the first year, I kind of went at my personal development stage where I kind of did I'm not going to talk to anyone. I'm just going to get myself in shape. I'm going to, um, focus on what interests me, focus on good people in my life, relationships. And it was a lot of hard conversations, right? So yeah, that's kind of what led me down a route of personal development was having the awareness of, okay, this is the situation I'm in. I need to change it. I need to adapt and I need to grow. If I don't, then I'm just gonna have a life of regret, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I hear that. That's a great story, man. And I totally relate to what you're talking about with that void being there after college athletics or like after you come out of your prime, so to speak, and you're no longer the athlete that you used to be. It can be a hit on your mental health and your happiness, because I feel like athletics are sort of a rock for us, they're there for our entire lives. And whether we're going to practice or competing for games or just, meeting people through athletics, like making friends that way, it can really be a rock for us. And once that's not there anymore, it's like there's this huge void and you kind of feel maybe inadequate or maybe less than you used to be. So I think it's natural for a lot of us to progress into, something that's more structured and more disciplined, like the world of personal development. So yeah, I totally relate to that story, man. And it sounds like you found a good way to channel all of that excess energy into another project. So that's
Yeah, it was
awesome.
one of the things that personal development is that I'm grateful for, but a lot of like there's a lot of hard realizations, a lot of truths that you have to go through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there has to be those hard conversations with your loved ones. There has to be hard conversations with yourself. You have to find individuals in your life that aren't necessarily just a yes person or a yes man. And I found a lot. It was hard for me too, where I've had these people in my life for so long that was building me up, building me up, building me up, but they were building me up for something that I didn't want to necessarily do anymore. So having the realizations that you have to switch up your environment, you have to switch up your routine, you have to switch up your mind, your body, the information you consume, your passions, your interests, like that whole switch up can be it can be very uneasy at sometimes.
Hmm.
But the reward of it is the reward of it is finding exactly where you need to go.
Right.
And I don't know how you feel about this, but I feel like personal development is one of the hardest routes to go down. And I think it's very stereotypical. Like people say, yeah, I'm on the personal development route, right? I'm developing myself. I'm an advocate for it. I said, heck yeah, do it. Do it good too. Like do it hard. If you're gonna do it. But it's a lonely path,
It
right?
is.
It's a
Yeah.
lonely path. It's a you just grow so much spiritually, you grow so much mentally and physically, and then you just get to a certain point where you're very, very comfortable of going at certain things or certain situations in your life that maybe once you were like very, very hesitant on.
Yeah.
And that's the reward.
Right. Right. Yeah. Moving towards fear, moving towards things that used to scare you. you just, you start to develop the confidence to do those kind of things, those big scary leaps. And you shed a lot of your old skin along the way, and that includes friends, that includes habits, that includes things that you used to just be really satisfied with, really comfortable with. I feel like that journey really yeah, it turns you into a new person. So I'm curious about talking about personal development like pretty broadly. So what are some specific areas that you've been working on? I know you're killing it with the fitness and like you shared some of your transformation. So I'm curious if you could speak on that and how that journey's been for you.
I think you fix your body, you'll fix your mind. Like I know that that's a very like open-ended statement and people can take that as you wish, but you fix your body, you will fix your mind. Um, for me, I last year, coming up on 2 years, no, like last year, this time last year, I was recovering from double hip surgery. Um, and I was in bed for 6 months straight. Like I was laying down for 6 months straight. Um, and I know that this is a quote, but we have a grocery list of problems. But as soon as you have a health problem, you have one problem in your life. And when my whole identity was kind of like that active athlete, personal development, when that is stripped down and you have to like sit physically lay down for 6 months, it tests you. So for me, I looked at it as okay, I've been so good with it physically. Now it's just kind of like elevating it mentally. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and I think there's two sides of personal development. I think there's a physical side and there's a mental side, but you have to take care of that physical side first because it will kind of fix the mental side as well. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, it's
Uh,
kind of the bedrock for everything else, right?
yeah, it's a foundation. It's a
Hmm.
foundation. Um, so for me, it was plain and simple. What are 2 to 3 things that I could do every single day that would do something for me physically and do something for me mentally? And for me, physically, just off the top of my head, I would go for a walk every single day for 20 minutes in the morning. Every single morning for a year straight, I went for a 20-minute walk. I would read 10 pages and or I would just journal and I would just write it down. So those were my two non-negotiables. And when you start out as a personal development, you want to grow as an individual, you want to see what you're truly capable of, you have to have non-negotiables. You have to have a few non-negotiables that you have to do every single day that make you, I would say, like make you sane, right? But also improve you. So for me, it was a physical one and a mental one. I walked, regardless if I worked out that day or not, I walked. And I would just listen to a podcast. To be honest, I wish we would have met earlier. I would have repped out some of your podcasts. Um,
Still
but
can, still can.
yeah, still can. But yeah, it was just non-negotiables. And when you go down that personal development route and you start to get that traction, right? Like you can feel it. Okay, like this is working. Like what's the next step? It's kind of like habit building, right? It's like, okay, I have two non-negotiables. What's one more non-negotiable that I can do every single day that will move the needle ahead? So I would say that if anyone's going down the personal development journey, the road, the lonely one, you have to create non-negotiables in your life, but start small. Start small and aim high.
Hmm. Man, I
You
gotta
know,
ask why you had double hip surgery. What was the reason behind
hockey,
that? Oh,
hockey.
really?
Yeah,
Dang. Were you a goalie?
I was a goalie. Yeah.
Oh shit. Yeah. I have a couple friends who are goalies, and it seems crazy what you do with your hips, like the splits and then like how all the training is like your knees are just kind of like
It's
tucked
just
in, and yeah, that seems brutal on the hips.
yeah. It wasn't pleasant. So that the pain started when I was 17. Um, it just got worse over time, and then they finally got me in after 3 years of being on a waiting list. So I went in when I was 23. Went in when I was 23.
Gnarly, dude. Well, I'm glad you recovered from it, man. And so you're
I
back
am
to
too.
full fitness?
Yeah, I am too, man. Like it was such a blessing in disguise. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
and I use the analogy of like, I think I posted this on my social media. It's like you just want that one like time frame of your life where you can just lock it down, right? And I think
Yeah,
that's what we're talking about personal development. I had that opportunity, right? I
right.
get to have the conversations with my parents. I could have the conversation with my girlfriend at the time. I could have the tough conversations with myself because it was just me, dude. It was just me.
Hmm.
Right. So I'm very grateful for that. And plus, like I can't even tell you how much like healthier I feel. Like I couldn't wake up in the mornings without my hips hurting. So I'm
Hmm.
very grateful that that happened. How about you?
Yeah, man. That's awesome. Yeah. I like what you said too about having just when you have a health problem, that becomes the biggest thing. You can't focus on anything else. Like you're not going to be able to focus on your business or focus on growing in other areas when that one thing is just always there, at the forefront of your mind. It's kind of like it's all consuming, until you can deal with that one problem, then everything else almost falls into place. Like it's just been waiting there for you to deal with it, but you can't because you're focused on just doing the basic things, getting up out of bed pain free, walking pain free. Like that becomes your sole focus. And it's also kind of like it makes me think too of how people struggle when they have like maybe they don't have their basic necessities met, like their basic bills are hard to pay. It's hard for you to tell somebody at that point, oh, well, you need to wake up and start meditating. You need to start journaling when like
Yeah,
their whole mind is just focused on covering the basic expenses and like they're stuck in that cycle, so it's kind of a similar thing. Like once you have that huge big problem in your life like that, you got to address that first and foremost, and then you can move on to some of the other parts of growing.
yeah, yeah. Do you think it's mostly like a traditional way of thinking of growing? Because that's something I've started to think about a lot more too. Is the traditional way of thinking. Like whenever I tax something, whether that be at work, personal development, I always like kind of break it down and I say to myself, is this a traditional way of how I should go about this, or is there like a more efficient way to achieve a certain outcome? Like, what do
Yeah.
you think? What do you think is like? What do you think is our baseline for that stuff?
Yeah, I think it's been evolving. I think, especially the last few years, with all the biohacking stuff that people are talking about, and using your biology to your advantage to just operate better. Like regulating your circadian rhythm, and also just like ways that you can healthily just improve your life. Like you see that all the time now, like with ice baths and saunas and doing this
Crazy.
kind of stuff. Like that just blew up, right? So I think that's maybe that wasn't traditional, but now it's becoming more mainstream, and it probably is traditional. I think that's probably what you're referring to. One thing that I would say is not traditional is like ideas about rest being productive, like how you need to take time. That's sometimes the most productive use of your time is to just chill and rest. And
Mm,
I feel like we're both kind of wired a little bit differently in terms of like wanting to just be go, 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 always doing something to move 1%, get
yeah.
1% better every day. But sometimes, yeah, that's something I've tried to grapple with more. Like that's non-traditional. It's like sometimes you just gotta chill and get a good night's rest, and then you're gonna be 10x more productive the next day.
Yeah, like that's something I do tend to struggle with. I do struggle with actually. I don't tend to. I struggle with it hard.
Hmm.
Um, it's just that pursuit and what we were talking about, like just being more grounded and kind of grateful for where you are right now because you don't know what's coming down the pipeline in 5 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Right? Just getting back to that grocery list of problems. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what we're talking about. I mean, you have a brief idea what we're going to talk about in 5 minutes. I have no idea, but it's just getting back to centering yourself, being more grounded, and realizing, yeah, you know what? If I want to take a nap for 20, I'm going to take a nap for 20 because I've been at it. And if I don't give myself, a recharge or reset or just a relax, then I'm not going to be working as efficiently. And I think a lot of like you said, a lot of productivity comes from just chilling, just
Hmm.
relaxing, right? And a
Hmm.
lot of ideas can come from it too when you just turn that brain off of yours and just be more present, be more grounded.
Yeah. Yeah. Big time. Are there any things that you're working on maybe in the non-traditional side that could be worth mentioning, like on the side of developing yourself?
Yeah, so I have a few ideas I'm kicking around right now. So along with my personal development, and I'm actually like just content guy. Um, I'm coming out with a video tomorrow. Tomorrow, Saturday? Yes, tomorrow. And it's going to be talking. So I'm a personal development junkie, right? I love the way that we can take ourselves from a situation that we are not happy in. and completely flip that and go on a trajectory of what you intentionally want to do in life. I love that. Like I love that. Um, like that's a driving force to me. I'm fired up just talking about it right now. And I also own a marketing agency. And a marketing agency came from a passion and idea that I had during my recovery, and I've done fairly well at it, and I want to maintain that. However, on the back end of it, I'm passionate about personal development, and I'm passionate about helping individuals realize that just because you're in a situation right now that doesn't mean that's going to be a forever thing. And it's completely up to you whether you're going to change that trajectory or you're just going to maintain it. Um, so for me personally, I did my first webinar last year. It was a success. I'm a confident individual who can speak in front of people. So if I can deliver messages that move the needle ahead for people, have them realize that, okay, you know what, my situation, it is what it is right now, but that guy can't help me, that girl can't help me. At the end of the day, it's on me. And if I can like just, I don't know, pull that motor for them and get them going to head out on the water, head out on that, path of personal development, that would make me fulfilled, I guess.
Mm.
You
Yeah,
know?
100%, 100%. Giving people that spark just to get going, just to
Yeah.
start moving in the right direction. And it's
Yeah.
hard though, because like I feel like people are so stuck, you know. I don't want to generalize everybody, but I feel like the vast majority of the population doesn't have the growth mindset in terms of being able to evaluate their life and see, oh, I can actually fix this. Like I think people are so quick to blame things on their background, their upbringing, you know, and just feel and just basically leave themselves stuck. Like it's
Right.
on them kind of. I know there
Yeah.
are external things that, you know, contribute to it, but you can
I
break
like
them out of it.
whenever I work with, I'm starting to, introduce myself to some more individuals, and whenever we have a conversation, they either speak to me about their career, their fitness, or their mindset.
Mhm.
Um, and I always resort back to a 6 week time frame, just 6 weeks. Because if you tell someone 1 year, it's like, oh God, like they start thinking about, well, I have a wedding over the summer. I got Thanksgiving in October. I got Easter. I got this. I got that. I got a bachelor party. They just overanalyze the shit out of it. Sorry, not swear. They overanalyze it completely, and they're like, well, that's too long. 6 months even, they're like, well, I got this coming up. So I'm always tell them, just do 6 weeks. Like set a time frame of, okay, this is when I'm going to go to bed. This is what I'm going to eat. This is when I'm going to work out. This is when I'm going to do the skill building. I'm going to work from my 9 to 5 or 8 to 4, but I'm going to be so dialed in for 6 weeks. And I'm telling you, after that 6 weeks, something major will change, whether that be a new skill, whether you've lost 10 pounds, whether you've read a whole entire book on your mindset, whether you went out to, like, I'm just going down a rabbit hole now, but you know what I mean. 6 weeks, just go at it for 6 weeks. So I think if you were to go down and like you said, like a lot of people, and I don't think you're generalizing it at all. They're almost like they almost put too much pressure on themselves that they don't start. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Or false expectations on themselves. Like, well, I want to lose weight. Okay, how much weight do you lose? 20 pounds. Well, if they don't lose like 2 pounds in like 3 weeks, they're like, screw it.
just give up. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So that's
Yeah.
why I like to say aim small, but do it for 6 weeks. Because I'm telling you, after 6 weeks, your habits will be better, your routine will be better, you'll be more knowledgeable in fields that you want to be knowledgeable in. And then that's just compound interest, man. Like it just continues to build and build and build.
Yeah, big time. I think what you're saying is actually making me rethink the approach that maybe I communicate the same message because I've always advocated for like radical responsibility, radical self-acceptance, being completely responsible for every aspect of your life, even though it might not be looked at as your fault. Like it could be part of your upbringing or your family background.
Okay.
But I think like what you're saying, that might put too much pressure on people in some ways. If I'm just like, you know, advocating for someone to really take responsibility. It might seem like it's this overwhelming like avalanche of responsibility at the same time, and they just don't they don't even take that first step because of it. So I think maybe it's about, you know, empowering people to know that there is a way to change, but maybe not putting that pressure on them. Finding that balance, I guess, in the middle of those two. It's kind of a hard line to toe, but
Yeah, I
yeah.
like that. I like that analogy. I have a question for you though. So, say you have a relationship in your life, and that relationship, like, you know exactly what you're getting with that relationship, right? And I'll be vulnerable right here. I've had many relationships in my life where, like, we would set the expectations, but those not expectations, but intentions. Like, this is how we want to communicate. Boundaries. We would set boundaries, but like those boundaries would like ever be so crossed every single time. So how much
Mm.
really is that on you if you've communicated that to you or communicated that to them? You know what I mean? And
Oh,
I
right, right. Like that's out of your control essentially. So why would you take responsibility for it?
yeah. So like, how much responsibility are you supposed to take?
Yeah, I think I guess with that message, I think it's just trying to break people out of that sense of helplessness that like they get stuck on something, like they're always in that victim mindset, like, oh, people just keep violating my boundaries and it's nothing I can do about it. And to some extent, like what you're saying, like if you're setting the boundaries and they keep getting violated, um, there is probably something I would say in there for you to tweak, like in your approach or your message with that person or how you communicate the boundaries. I feel like there's got to be a way for you to just like self-reflect on that and think, okay, if this keeps happening, if it's a recurring theme, maybe there is something in there for me to, and maybe I'm partially at fault for this. Maybe it's only 10% or 20%, but like there
Yeah.
could be something that I could do to tweak my approach in terms of like being more firm in the boundaries or making clear like what the consequences of violating my boundaries are or something like that.
I
Um,
like I like that a lot. And just to like tether on that, so like we talked about friendships, we talked about relationships, we can go down, careers and everything like that. Um, when do you think there's a threshold for someone like down the personal development era, right? Going down that personal development path, because when you go down that path, you're just kind of getting into a zone of setting good things up for yourself, whether that be in relationships, careers, friendships, yada yada yada, right? When do you think like there's a threshold that needs to be broken where you're like, okay, I've done it, I took responsibility, but like that situation or that circumstance, that person is just no longer a fit for me.
mm,
A lot of people continue to like take their self respect away from them because they continue to just associate themselves with that. You know what I mean?
right. Yeah, I guess it would for me, it would stem down to kind of like, are they negatively dragging me down? Like, are they bringing me backwards? Like some people can kind of be a neutral influence on your life. Like they're not, a highly motivated entrepreneur that's going to drag you up with them, which is like ideally the people you want to associate with, right? Like people who are also aiming for
Yeah.
higher that can, level you up too. But if they're neutral, it's kind of like, I don't know. I wouldn't like be so quick to just cut everybody off that's not 10xing my productivity or helping me level up. I guess I would just try and look at whether or not they're, dragging me down or like being negative or like shitting on my ideas, my big ideas, because that's super important to me,
Yeah.
You got to safeguard those.
100%, dude. 100%. Like, you got to protect that as much as you want to, as much as you have to expose your inner child for growth, you got to protect that little girl, little boy too at some point.
Yeah. So I'm
You know what I mean?
curious, man. That's actually a question I had written down and it segues nicely. How have you responded to or dealt with people that might, question your path or your, especially when you get on social media, right? Like that's a whole other thing of like putting yourself out there. And I'm sure a lot of people are, saying something in their mind like, oh, wow, really? Brock's doing this? Okay, have you seen what Brock's doing? Kind of thing. So I'm just curious how you've dealt with that or have you been exposed to that like directly with anybody in your life?
Um, exposed to it. I've had some circumstances where people would like underneath their breath, like call me like, how's the content creation going or something like that, like make an offside joke. Um, I know it's in the back of their heads, but I don't honestly, I don't spend 1 ounce of effort or thinking towards anyone. Like, I think I'm a confident individual, and I think that when you find something that you're very passionate about and that interests you, and like when I started content creation, it was based off of passion, based off interest. I was horrible at it, man. Like I was so bad at it. And
Me
when I
too.
look, yeah, and when I look back, I'm like, I make fun of myself. Like I make fun of myself, but like now it's like where I was to now I am, like, and I know I'm going to continue to grow, continue. Like it's just like, okay, like do I really care about this opinion? Like do I really? Like, and I think it's a tough question to ask, not to ask anyone, but like tough question for me to answer because I've always been an advocate for if you go down a path that interests you or you're passionate about, those outside noises doesn't matter because you're so fueled up by what you want to bring or the value you want to bring. You
Yep.
know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, Now, just flipping that, like, and like something I do struggle with is I struggle with the messaging because the messaging and the storytelling and stuff like that, like, it just comes with skill. And maybe I'm rambling right now. But as far as people go, as you know, the outside noise and stuff like that, when you're dialed in and you know exactly who you are and what you want to do, those outside noises just get thinner and thinner by the day,
Yep.
right? Because you've already developed yourself so sufficiently that you know who your circle is, you know who you want to interact with. um, and this is going to sound a little salesy, I guess, but within the business, I do a lot of cold calling. And one thing I found is every time they have a correlation because every time you make a cold call and they say no, well, you're closer to a yes. And every time you post a video, it might not, hit or not, but like you're one step closer to that follower that you're going to resonate with,
Hmm.
right? You and I are a prime example of that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if it was me or you who, like, I think I commented on your video and then it was just bang, bang, bang. And now we're on a podcast together. We align up mentally, we align up physically. Like, that's why we do what we do. Because as soon as you like align yourself up more to who you want to be, what you want to do, the right people will come into your life. And the people that are left behind or the opinions, they just get thinner and thinner by the day.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. You just kind of have to stand on your own too and just be really steadfast in that, like this is my message, this is who I am, this is what I'm trying to build. And if you like it, you like it, join along for the ride. If not, then
Yeah.
it is what it is, right? Like you can't try to cater to everybody and
No.
appease everyone at a certain point, you have to just put your head down and go for what you want. It's
Hmm.
it's so crucial.
Yeah. And I think that like it's just a confidence builder. And I think like that's just like the 6 week too, right? Like after that 6 weeks of you going at it for your non-negotiables, right? I'm gonna work out every single day. I'm gonna journal. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. For me right now, my non-negotiables, and I'm still continuing to do them, is I have to make 10 cold calls, but I have to talk to 10 people per day for the next 6 weeks. It's something I don't want to do, but I have to do it
Hmm.
because after that 6 weeks, I'm going to be a better conversationalist. I'm going to be more confident. And it's something I need to do. Like, what's on the other side of that? You know what I mean? It's growth.
Yeah.
So, it's just about aligning yourself up, man. And when you align yourself up, you just your confidence builds up with that.
It's so true, man. And getting those reps into like once you hit that 10th call, like your script is so much more dialed in. Your way
Yeah.
to interact with people and read them is so much better. It's just crazy. Like even though you might be more tired, like physically or mentally, like you're still able to improve. And
Yeah.
that's crazy to me. Like
Mhm.
yesterday, I had a super crazy busy day, with podcasting and then also my day job and then also this networking event after hours. And it was
Cool.
crazy. Even after that, at the networking event, I just felt like all that work that I had done up front, even though I was super tired, it was just flowing. Like I was not scared to talk to people, to network. Like
Yeah.
sometimes if you come in cold, the initial reps, you might
Yeah.
freeze up, right? You all of a sudden you're in a room with 50 people and you're like, I don't know. It's easier to sit
Yeah.
over here in the corner with my drink and not go talk to people. But yeah, I think I attribute that to just getting the reps in. Like you said, on that ninth or tenth call, you're probably just going to be snappy with it and just be way sharper. So that's why we got to do it, right?
Yeah, you're flowing. I like that analogy. You're just flowing. I'm gonna
Yeah,
say that, actually. Yeah, I'm gonna say that analogy. That's what I
yeah,
want to do every time I make the cold calls now. I just want to get to a flow state.
yeah, yeah. It's true. It's hard to get there, but like you easily can if you just get the reps in. That's what I feel like people don't understand with any sort of skill building or any sort of big goal. Like you just get so much better by spending the time and being bad at it, right? Like
Yeah,
sucking while you do it. Like as long as you can just lean into it and know that you're growing in that process, it just becomes more fun, right? You're like,
yeah,
I'm getting better actively as I do this, even though I suck right now.
yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a fun
No,
process when you look at it that way.
yeah, man. That's crazy how you brought it up because I was thinking about that this morning. I have to do something within the business, and I'm not figuring it out right now. I'm not figuring it out, and it's just as much as it may sound like it. I have to add in codes. Okay, I have to add in specific codes. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of what they actually are, but I have to add in specific codes, dude. It's taken me already 2.5 days to do this. And I've
Hmm.
seen people on YouTube do it in 7 minutes, right? So it's taking me 2.5 days. But in my mind, while I'm doing this, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be flowing the next time I have to do this. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? That
100%.
that's it right there. Like you
Hmm.
go through that little trial period of hard, and it's just a compound interest at that point, right?
Yep. Yep. All the time that you save in the future doing that exact task,
Yeah.
you just got to suffer through it now to get there, right?
You just have to go to the gym one time. You just have to make cold call one time. You just have to, pick up a book one time, and you're like, okay, it's not that bad.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
big time, man. Big time. So yeah, man, I want to hear from a young hustler like yourself, man. How do you avoid burnout, with everything that you're doing? How do you stay consistent? How do you stay just keep going at it every single day?
Um, I know that there's so much like talk about like burnout on the internet. Um, there is burnout, but there's also being aware that you just need rest. Uh,
Hmm.
you know, I think when you start to rest more and you dial in your sleep and you're open to yourself of just relaxing more, I think you avoid burnout. Um, but as far as consistency and motivation, um, and I guess now that you asked that question, I did have a little bit of vengeance when I started that personal development, where it was kind of like, okay, you know what? You don't think I'm going to really attest anything while I make this decision? It's kind of like I'm going to watch me, right? That
Yeah.
was kind of my mindset. That was kind of like maybe the spark. Right now, what gets me going is it keeps me going consistently is plain and simple. My mom, my dad, my brother, and my sister. Like that's literally it. My family. Um, I want to, it's weird because I was thinking about this literally yesterday, where I want to make money and I want to continue pursuing this and I want to, build myself up for future success just to do hobbies and just to like do experiences that I've done already, but I don't have to stress about it anymore. Right? So
Mm-hmm.
like I want to make more money so I can train at the best boxing gym in Thailand or best boxing gym at in Connecticut of the United States, right? I want to make money to take my family out for a nice dinner, right? And I think a lot of people have that mindset of I want to do this for myself and I completely take it out of it. When you do things just for, the sake of doing them, I think that's when burnout and inconsistency happens. Um, but I think along the way you just find out your why is even deeper. I know that
Hmm.
was a long answer, right? That was a long answer. So to sum it up, I just want I want I'm staying consistent because my family. I love my family, right? They're just family's everything. And two is I want to experience the things that I know that interest me, but amplified, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, man, I hear that. Like having more of a purpose behind your work,
Yeah.
not just grinding just for the sake of grinding because you think you need to be disciplined every single day. It's like, no, I'm doing this for a reason. Like I'm trying to break out of this box and be
What
able to
is your
provide.
mindset with purpose? I have a question. Yeah, what's your mindset with purpose or your thinking behind purpose?
I think everyone needs a purpose, and they need like whether or not it's like this grand vision of being like a good Samaritan or making millions of dollars to donate to organizations. Like it doesn't have to be something like that's so lofty. I feel like anybody in the daily grind can find purpose in what they do. It just takes kind of like a spin on how you view things.
Yeah.
Actually, my very first podcast episode was called "The Myth of Your True Calling." And I talk
Mm,
about on that episode, I talk about how people who are waiting for their true calling to show up or who are trying to find this like my destiny kind of thing, like you don't need to wait around for that, because if you do, it's never going to come. It's never just going to show up at your doorstep and be like, here's your purpose in life. Like you
yeah.
have to do the self discovery, and you also can find it in the daily like monotony. Like if you're serving people at Starbucks, even though that's objectively like probably not most people's like dream career, you can look at that as like, okay, I'm helping this person get motivated to start their day. I'm serving the people, and I'm on the right path to get to where I want to go. I'm taking steps in the right direction. I'm contributing to society at large. So you can kind of like spin it in a way where like that can be your purpose, like that mission of just like using Starbucks to level up, to save money, to start a venture or something like that. You can kind of elevate the smallest task to have more purpose. But I mean, ideally, you have a purpose that's like, much larger than you, that helps other people, that's,
Mhm.
involves serving others. And then the money will come naturally. I think that's kind of how I view, finding your purpose or living a purpose-driven life, I suppose.
Yeah. And to add on to that, um and I don't so when you started your personal development, were you like, I need to find my purpose?
Uh, no, not necessarily. I think when I started it, it was a little vengeful, kind of like what you talked about. I had like it was like a relationship that went wrong and I felt inadequate. And so I started getting super deep in that world of like, kind of like, oh, I'm going to show you. Yeah, I'm gonna level up. Like I'm gonna win this breakup was kind of the initial mindset, and so it's pretty petty how I got started. But then, I just got so deep into it, and I just started to love it. And well beyond that, I was like, okay, I'm just seeing the growth, and
Yeah.
this is so fun.
Yeah. Okay. Two things. Now that you say that, number one, I'll get back to the purpose later, but like that vengeance that like started us, right? Now that when we look back on that vengeance, it's like, I don't know how you feel about it, but like 2 years after, like, or a year and a half, 2 years that I'm in this personal development, and I was looking at my vengeance of why I started, it's like, okay, you know what? Maybe I was in the wrong there. Like we almost take ourselves and we've grown so much that we're like, okay, you know what? I can see what went wrong there. And I think that's just part of the journey itself too. But see, I was kind of finding the purpose when I started personal development, because when I left sports, I was looking for that identity. I was like constantly in my head, who's Brock gonna be? Like what's Brock gonna do? How does he talk? How does he act? You find your purpose through the work of self discovery, of personal development. That's when you find your purpose, for me at least. When I started going to the gym, when I started writing out business ideas and breaking them down and using my 5 W's and breaking down systems and learning about marketing, like that's when I was like, okay, my purpose is to be a helping hand as much as you possibly can, built in with your passions and your interests in life.
Hmm.
That's why there's so many people that don't live a purposeful life, and I hate to say it, but they don't live a purposeful life because they don't do what they want to do or interest them or have passions behind them. So they
Hmm.
go home and they watch Netflix all day, or sorry, all night, and they just do the same routine, right? But it's like, it's so simple, right? Like you and I can say it's simple. A lot of people, and we say that to so many people, and they're like, it's not simple. It's like, no, it's not. I'm not gaslighting you at all, but it's simple to take a little action that can compound into something bigger, and then you would find that it wasn't that scary to get into in the first place.
Hmm. Yeah, I feel like it does all stem down to action, right? Like finding your passions, things that lit you up even when you're a kid, and things that interest you, and just going after those, taking small steps to, keep moving in those directions. And at that point, as long as you're getting the reps in, the purpose will reveal itself to you, right? Like it'll show up once you realize, oh shit, I'm actually able to be of service to people with
Yeah,
my marketing advice, or maybe what I'm doing with their business. I'm helping them level up and be able to provide for their family. Like, I think that's what drives a lot of entrepreneurs forward too, is like, okay, my agency or my company is providing for this many families and giving them an opportunity to provide for themselves. And it's like, that purpose is like beyond your own mission, right? It's like all of a sudden you have the weight of 10 to 20, 50 people, whatever it is, on your shoulders, and you can't slack off. Like you can't wake up in the morning and be like, I'm gonna have an off day today. It's like, you got people riding, things are riding on the line for you. So you
that could be pressure too. You know what I mean? That could
mhm.
be pressure. So it kind of goes back to how are you? What are your non-negotiables that keep you sane, right? I don't know about you. My non-negotiable, and I know it's cliche, but now being a business owner, like there is a lot of pressure on myself and to get impactful results for the individuals I work for the businesses I work for. So like what's two things that I do? I work out. I have to work out. I know that's so cliche, but I work out because it just do something for me and I just write every single night. And when I do those two things, it's like it's gonna be okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that helps settle everything down.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, doing those few things. I mean, if everything else fails, like if you're not making the sales that you want, or you're not showing up in other ways, like if you're in the gym and you're writing, you're learning more about yourself, you're still killing it, you're still moving forward.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. The
Yeah.
house could be burning up. The house could be
Yeah.
burning up. But like as soon as I get this, it's like okay, I'm at the gym now. I'm cool, right? Even though the house is burning up, you're working out, and then you just like you figure out different ways. Like when you're in your safe haven, that's when the answers kind of come to you. You know what I mean? You go
Yeah.
home, the house is burning up, but you realize that you can go from the back and grab the water and take it out. You know what I mean? Like that's the answers are coming from things that just are your non-negotiables.
True. True. Yeah, no, the non-negotiables. I love that. I feel like that really helps you deal with stress, deal with the pressure, and deal with it in the right way, I guess, come at it more calibrated, more focused on just being a problem solver, and less about getting caught up in the emotional side of it and just like letting yourself get carried away. Yeah, I think that's rad, man.
Yeah. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What has running done for you? Because I've been seeing you post like all these crazy runs, and that's something that I want to get back. Like I want to say get back into. I mean, I ran the 400-meter one time in public school, but I want to get into running a lot more. One of my goals in 2025 is to run for my first half marathon. What has running done for you?
Oh, dude. How much time you got, man? Running for me, I running has transformed my life, man. I mean, I used to run, so I played soccer, so running a lot during soccer games. And so I always feel like I had a baseline around that, but I never really dove into it in terms of just running distances until probably the pandemic, like when I was stuck at home and didn't have access to a gym. So I started just running outside. And man, it develops mental toughness, the discipline. You push past mental barriers when you run more so than anything else I've ever experienced. Getting in the gym is pretty comfortable for me. Like I love going to the gym. It's something I look forward to. I love that feeling of, the testosterone's flowing, you're just pushing up the weight. Like that to me is exciting. Running is one of those things that like every time I do it, I'm just like, I don't want to do this. Like I
Yeah,
really don't want to.
yeah,
And so once you come, you just keep getting over those hurdles every single time. And I feel like it levels up your mental toughness to a different place. And then actually, a few episodes back, I talked about like why I signed up for a second marathon. And the reason was because after I did my first one, I had this innate sort of level of comfort with discomfort, I guess, where I was able to just deal with hard things in my life much more smoothly than I was before. I talked about I had this lung surgery thing that happened to me, and if I hadn't been doing the building up the mental toughness through running, I don't think I would have been able to handle the lung surgery as well as I did. It could
Mm,
have like sent me on this negative spiral. So yeah, developing that beforehand, like you're just going to be prepared for whatever life's going to throw at you. And
yeah,
way more so than anything else I've experienced. Like as I said, the gym or even soccer, like there's things that are tough about that, when you're training hard, but like at the end of the day, it's fun, you love it. So it's about doing one of those things that just you absolutely are dreading doing.
yeah.
Um, and yeah,
I'm dreading it right now. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. But
yeah,
it's weird because you can go to, like you said, the gym's comfortable, and I would say the gym's comfortable for me. Like you're, let's just use bench press for an analogy. You're benching 225. You're around 8 to 10 reps. As soon as you hit the eighth rep, you're like, okay, this is my last one, or else I'm gonna tear my pec. But it's like when you run, I don't know about you, but it's like, okay, I finished 5 kilometers, but I kind of got another kilometer in me. You know what I mean? Like I
yeah,
can kind of do it again. And then you
yep,
do like 6 kilometers, and you're like, all right, I'll do 5 more 100 meters, and then I'll call it. But like it happens every time. You
yeah.
put the threshold, and it's like, okay, like what now can I do?
Exactly, man. Exactly. Like you discover where that limit really is.
Yeah.
Especially with doing the longer distances. Like I'm sure when you crush that half this year, you'll be like, damn, that was rough, but it actually wasn't that bad. I probably could do a full. And then you do the full and you're like, that sucked, but like realistically, I had something left in the tank. I probably could do a 50K. And it's like
Oh,
you just keep raising the bar and I don't know. It's just mind blowing to realize like how much the body is capable of, when the mind
yeah.
commits to something.
Mine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really nuts.
I'll
Um,
stay at five
yeah.
kilometers for now, but yeah.
Yeah, start small, man. Start
Yeah,
small.
my weekly five.
Yeah, just get the miles in under the legs and then, a few weeks later, like you said, 6 weeks down the line, you'll be up to
Um,
10K. Yeah.
there you go. Now you
Yeah.
get now you get it.
Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah, the only other thing I'll say on running, I love talking about this, so you brought up a good topic, man. Is that the mental clarity that you get when you're running? Like I've had breakthroughs with like work problems while I'm running, and that's never happened to me with anything else. Like I'll be on a long run and you get that runner's high with
Yeah.
the endorphins, and all of a sudden I'm just like thinking so clearly about something that I was on a meeting on earlier, and I'm like, oh shit, I should have said that, and I'll just like type this email up when I get back home. So that kind of stuff is, yeah, it's wild. You're like, damn, I didn't realize I had access to these insights through the physical realm, right? Like it's something you would think, oh, I need to meditate on this or I need to read a book, but it's like, no, you just go out and physically do
That's
it.
kind
And
of your meditating. That's kind of your meditation.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. See,
yeah,
I haven't hit those. I'm a beginner runner. I'm a big dude. So like when I run, I kind of look like I don't know. Like I look kind of weird. But like that runner's high, I've experienced that before. That's nothing. That's like nothing I've ever felt before. Like I'd be running like a 6 kilometer pace, and then I get that runner high, and my next kilometer could be like 4:20. Um, but
yeah,
like mental clarity, I've heard so many individuals talk about that, and I know it's coming soon. I know it's coming
yeah,
soon. I will make sure to tell you when it does.
yeah. Let me know, man. I'm stoked to hear what epiphanies you have.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Might
that'd be
move to
sweet.
Paris. Might move to Paris, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. We, we
I
never.
wouldn't don't put it past yourself, man. That those kind of
Yeah,
things do happen, I feel like.
yeah.
Yeah. That's rad, man. Well, I know you got some meetings coming up, and I don't want to keep you for too long, man. So I've really enjoyed the conversation today, and just want to ask, if you want to leave listeners with anything, maybe where they can find you or some upcoming projects you got going on, would be a good time to plug that now.
Okay. I don't need to. My social media, it's just Brock Baier. But follow me, don't follow me. It doesn't really matter to me. But I do want to just say one thing, and that is, life responds to effort. And the more that you put effort into things that you are passionate about or things that you have interest in, life will respond to that in the ways that you never thought they would or it would. So choose wisely, choose your friends wisely, choose your family, your friends, your job, your career, your hobbies, your habits, because that will shape your future. Go full at it because life responds to effort. Yeah,
I love that.
yes,
Can't,
sir.
couldn't, couldn't agree more, man.
Yeah,
Let's
man.
keep at it. Let's
But no,
yeah,
for
I'm
real.
excited to
Thank you
see
for
what's in
having me
store for
on.
us.
Thank you for having me on. And I've been a big like when we connected maybe late last year. I like the show. I've subscribed to the show. I like listening. All your content you come out. I'm keen about it. I like what you're at. I like the trajectory you're in. Um, Running, I might have to use you as a little sideboard. But as we continue to grow, you're a good man, and it's been awesome to getting to know you personally and through the Spotify. So keep doing you, and there's going to be big things for this platform, social media, and maybe running too. We'll see. Maybe we have to run a marathon together one day.
Hey, we might have to sign up for that, man. I'm always
No,
down. I'm always down.
killing it.
Yeah, appreciate it, Brock. Great talking to you. And
So
yeah, have a good weekend, man.